This is our group's presentation on client-side wireless attacks, and in our group we have myself, Aldo, Lindsay, and Sergio.
Okay, so we are going to start with explaining what is a client-side wireless attack, and we understand this like when an attacker wants to exploit the vulnerabilities in the client application. We are going to see what is the difference between server-side attack and a client-side attack. But first of all, we're going to see an overall view about these kind of attacks. Okay, so the first thing is that we have to learn when does this kind of attacks occurs. First, they can be in different ways, such as Bluetooth devices, FTPs, email browsers, instant messaging, and multimedia streaming. We are going to see how they work in these ways in the next slides. Okay, the first thing we have to see what is the difference between the client-side and server-side attacks. First of all, of course, they target the users in the client side, and in the server side, they target the servers. But both of these attacks can target applications. But the difference, or the big difference, is that the client-side attack exploits the client's communication process. So if you are connected to a server, they're going to attack only clients, not the server. And the applications where they will be attacked by two sides, by the client side and server side. So to divide them, we can differentiate between three categories that will be confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So we have several examples of confidentiality, and those kind of attacks, they are related to keep information and resources secret to all but those that are authorized to interact with them. In the case of integrity attacks, they keep information in the format that was intended to use that information, but the attack will alter that information and use it in a different way. And in the case of availability attacks, they keep information from being accessible or usable at all the times by those who need to access. So if we see this kind of attacks, we are going to see like cookies. They store a lot of information, and if an attacker can get those cookies, they are going to see a lot of information that is on the client, on the user. It happens similar to the autocomplete and browser history and clipboard attacks, because you save a lot of information that is on your own, and an attacker can use it, like bank accounts or all those things. And in the case of availability, if you are using some information that is all for you and you can use it at the time you need it, an attacker can use that information, and you are not going to see what is or how this information is going to use in your own. Okay, so I think that's it about these types of client side attacks, and Kelly is going to give us some examples of these attacks.
All right, so one type of client-side that's a wireless attack is known as bluejacking. Now, bluejacking is more considered like a type of spam. So this will send unsolicited messages via Bluetooth from one device to another, and it's possible where a Bluetooth network is present. So if you're usually, out and about at a public place and your Bluetooth is on, that is the time you are most vulnerable. Now, another thing about bluejacking is that no authentication is required for them to actually hack into your device via Bluetooth. Now, the way they do this is by getting programs to find an open Bluetooth device. Now, when they actually hack into your phone and put malicious malware on there and more, that's actually more on blue snarfing. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to do blue jacking. And blue jacking is more like spam. Now, going off of that, since it's just like spam, it's usually harmless. Now, ways that you can protect against blue jacking is to disable your Bluetooth device. But if you really need to have your Bluetooth device on, what you could do to try and protect phone when you're not using it is set down a lockdown time for, let's say, if you haven't used your Bluetooth for 60 seconds, then it turns it off with the 60 seconds of inactivity. And you can change it to discover mode only when it's needed. And if you absolutely have to have your Bluetooth always on, you can secure it with a pin. The next type we're going to talk about is honeypot. Now, there are different forms of honeypot, but we're going to talk about the client side of honeypot. With honeypot, it lures the users to believe that they are actually connected to a trusted wireless network. And the easiest way, and a device that's configured as an access point may not be the actual one that you want it to connect to. What they do is they use the same SSID as another access point. And so when you're actually connected to their access point, everything you are doing will be either filtered or monitored by the attacker. And when he is doing this, filtering or monitoring you, it can then turn into a man-in-the-middle attack. Now, and another thing the honeypot does is be able to view unencrypted traffic. Now, these include email, instant messages, FTP, and telnet sessions. Now, the way to protect against honeypot is one way on Microsoft Windows operating systems. You can configure it to disable automatically connect to a wireless network. And the easiest way, of course, is to not use wireless if possible. But there are software and hardware that you can use, and one is that are based on wireless intrusion prevention systems. And those are able to detect, any rogue access points that might be occurring on your computer via wirelessly. Now, the best way is to stay away from open Wi-Fi networks, so only use those that are secure and encrypted. And if you have to always use Wi-Fi networks, and even if it's not an open Wi-Fi network, the best way would be to use a secure VPN connection. And that is our presentation on client-side wireless attacks.